All right, we're good? We can hear people? Let's go. What's going on? Welcome to the Adelaide.net user group, learning about building Microsoft Teams apps on the 8th of May, 2024. Get excited, everyone. All right, let's cut out that music. So let's get this started. Did my window lose focus? Looks like it. All right, first, how cool is that? Who did that? You have no idea how long I spent trying to find the exact color codes that VS Code would use for code. So tonight I'm going to be talking about building Teams apps to send messages to Teams rather than how you would traditionally send messages from an app to your email, to your push notifications on mobile, to SMS. Today we're doing it in Teams. It's very fun, unnecessarily difficult. Get excited. For those of you with a keen eye, you'll notice there's two names here, Ben Smit. And for those of you with an even keener eye, you'll notice that there's only one of us up here tonight. Unfortunately, this is a real excuse, Ben did get taken away for a work trip, unfortunately, so he's living it up in Sydney tonight at fancy restaurants, wining and dining the big players in the world. And you know what? I got the better job tonight, to be honest. I don't know, I don't want to spoil anything, but that guy likes to drop by, so I don't know, he might show up in the presentation. We'll see what happens. So let's get into it. Who are we? Myself and Ben, we work at TeamGauge, which is a local startup here. We work at Lot 14. If you walk through the place, I'm sure you'll see one of us. Again, I won't talk too much because if Ben did happen to show up, he likes to talk about his company that he runs, and so I'll leave that for him if he were to show up again. But what about me? I'm a bit of a humble guy usually, but I do like to introduce myself as the CEO of many, many things. So for example, I run a company on the side called Shifto. It's an app on the App Store to help shift workers coordinate their schedules and all of that. If you visit my GitHub, this is a terrible resolution. My username is the Pyramid Scheme CEO. You can find me there. I am, most importantly, hands up if you know what HTMX is. Yeah, you bloody .NET people. Come to the front end meetup. You're going to love it when you learn about it. It is literally just like razor partials, and the whole front end world is going insane over it because they just learned about it. But anyway, 597 CEOs, ignore that there's 597 of them. Who's this charming guy here? I'm certified on the board of directors of HTMX, and while Ben's away, I'll take TeamGauge CEO as well. So there's two bits that are going to be involved in the talk tonight. Why would we want to do this? Because as I said, we're doing this on behalf of TeamGauge. Unfortunately, it sucks. Normally as developers, we like to just do things because they're cool. But in the real world, at a business, you kind of have to have a reason to do that. And so, yeah, there's that. And then there's the fun part of how do we actually build it and make it work. Now, because you're developers, I don't actually have to talk about this bit, which is very nice. So let's get rid of that. And, hang on. Sorry, Satya's calling this guy. Hey, Satya, how's it going? Yeah, good. I'm just at the .NET meetup. Yeah, your company's thing. Oh, you knew? Yeah, cool. I didn't think the business case was really that necessary tonight. It's just developers. They don't need to know that stuff. So I'll leave it there. No, man. Don't listen to me. Come on. We're doing things my way tonight. That's enough. All right. See you later. All right. Sorry about that. He likes to do his thing. Hang on. Billy boy, what's going on? Heard the news from Satya, did you? God, that guy's such a dog. Yeah, look, I don't work for you. You can't fire me. I'm not talking about the business case. I'm just doing what the devs want, which is talking about code. So get used to it. All right, that's it, William. We're hanging this up. How you been, by the way? Is it still seeing you this weekend? Yeah, cool. All right, I'll see you there. Enjoy the Bahamas. All right. So that's it. Oh, hang on. Sorry. One more call, I think. So I don't know why I know that there was one more call. It's actually Ben. Ben, how's it going? Did Bill talk to you, huh? Well, look, I don't want to talk about it. Do you maybe, if we really got to do it, do you maybe want to record a quick video explaining the business case behind things? And look, I know you're a busy guy, but you could probably get that done in the next 10 seconds or so, couldn't you, and send it through? Yeah, cool. All right. I'll leave you to do that. Yeah, great. See ya. All right. So my hand has been twisted. We're going to have to talk about the business case and why we would do this. But thankfully, as you may have heard, Ben has stepped up. He's a pretty quick guy. He probably has done that by about now. Oh, yeah, look, there's a video already here. He's very quick at that. Let's bring this into view. What a lovely studio that is.
Hi everyone. For those of you who don't know, my name is Ben Smit. I am CEO here at TeamGauge, and I also lead the product team. Unfortunately, I can't be with you in person tonight. A last-minute work trip has come up, and I'm now interstate as I speak. But rest assured, you've got Matt with you from the team, who is going to be the bulk value from this session anyway. I thought I'd just do a really quick introduction to set the scene with what we were trying to achieve from a business perspective with this project, with our Microsoft Teams application. So to give you a bit of background, TeamGauge is a platform that helps teams to work more effectively together. And we do that with a lot of fairly large customers. So our part of the process is that our team members will submit feedback in a range of areas, looking to find metrics specific that will help those teams to improve, and that will vary depending on the organization, depending on the teams, and what they choose to focus on. Then we look at the results, we analyze the results and provide a report for each team and for leaders across the organization to understand what action should be put in place so those teams can work more effectively with each other and internally. So as you can imagine, that process requires a good deal of interaction with different levels of users and a lot of notifications that go with that. When we look to create a Microsoft Teams application, we were purely using email as a channel. And as you will know, it's a very noisy channel. So it becomes really difficult to actually reach the users that we wanted to reach. Given that we deal with a lot of corporate customers as well, Microsoft's suite of Office 365 is pretty popular in that crowd, and at the time Microsoft Teams was becoming more and more popular in getting rolled out as well. So it seemed like a really natural fit for us to integrate with Microsoft Teams in that way to do a few things. So we set out initially to try and send notifications to those that needed to submit feedback, those that were receiving notifications for reporting purposes. And that was our first goal with this project, was to reach them using Teams. We also implemented a feature where we could post the results of various teams directly into Microsoft Teams. So you can publish from our platform, and you can also communicate with the bot, which was the third thing that we implemented in Teams. So you could ask the bot to retrieve results from TeamGauge, and you could also ask the bot some simple commands like give me my submission link and give me my reporting links and those sorts of things. So when we set out, we thought, look, this is a very achievable project. I'm sure we can get this done in a couple of months. And I'm sure you've all been involved with projects that take longer than you think. And I think in the end, ours took probably almost a year to actually hit the Microsoft Teams store. And I guess the learning that I would take away from that, the actual development side of it wasn't too bad. The thing that really got us was the validation process. So Microsoft has a validation process that uses an external contractor to do the validation, and they will go through a very scripted process to approve the app. They'll be given a list of 100 things or however many it is, and you've got to tick all of those boxes. Now that's okay, but there are a lot of nuances, particularly when you're integrating two different platforms, and some of those don't fit into those checkboxes. So it took us a lot of back and forth, and unfortunately, every time you resubmit for validation, they start from scratch. So we had issues where we would get exceptions to the validation process, which were accepted, but then the new team would go cover that ground from scratch again every single time. So it was a lot of back and forth. In fact, in the end, we actually had to use some internal sponsors at Microsoft that we had through contacts through the partnership program to get us across the line, because it was just becoming, a pretty difficult process. So that is the one lesson I would take away from this is understand that validation process is potentially challenging. Try and be on the front foot with that. Get the checklist ahead of time. Include as much information as you can in your submission to make sure that works. So even down to the point we had some somewhat silly things where they rejected one of our validation rounds because the application cannot have the word team in the name because they didn't want it to be confused with Microsoft Teams. Now, obviously, we weren't going to change our company name from TeamGauge, so that was a challenge. And again, we were able to get that exception. But those are those little things that crept up, and it did end up taking quite a while. So I'd also recommend when you do publish the app, do it in a way where you've got plenty of avenues to not have to update the application itself when you want to add new functionality. Do it in a way where you can just do it on your end and push those features through to the existing application, because that will make your life a lot easier. So anyway, look, again, apologies I couldn't be there in person. Looking forward to attending a session in the near future. But in the meantime, love to introduce you to Matt, who will take you through the details of our project. Thanks very much.
Hello. I sound good. Test, 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 test. Yeah, cool. That's better. Where's my mouse gone? Be here, please. All right. We did it. So we know why we did it. We want to cut through the noise of email, get our notifications to our users in a place where they are. You can hear me without the speakers here? Yeah, cool. Now, how do we actually build it? And this is where I want to take you on something I like to refer to as the MS Teams development cycle, which is, it's a roller coaster. It was full of lots of ups and downs. As you heard from Ben, we just went through like hell trying to go through. Look, I don't want to compare it to the trenches, but we were in the trenches with the validation process. It's like you get good points and you get bad points, and yeah, it just takes so much longer than you thought. But while I was building this presentation, the thing is, we did this quite a while ago now, and we're only just getting to present about it tonight, like multiple years ago. So I've kind of forgotten this process, and I was really enjoying myself building this presentation, and I'd like you to help me to relive this experience, this roller coaster tonight. And I'd like you to help me by doing that, because some slides, I'll go through the thought process. Some slides will have a title there that says, "We're so back." And when you see that, I want you to help me say, "We're so back." Cheer out, give a clap. And some slides naturally will have an "It's so over" title. And when that happens, think about, not to bring up emotions, but your pet dog that died or something. Really let it out and help me. That's how bad it was. All right, so one practice round. Ready? Oh, dude, come on. It's got Steve Ballmer doing the developers. He's not there. And it's so over. It's so over. Yeah, great. All right, thank you. Let's get into it. All right, first test. Yes. All right, we're TeamGauge. We've had this idea. We're gonna send messages via Teams. It's gonna work. We have TeamGauge. It already sends notifications. It sends them using email and SMS. And all we want to do is send it to Teams. Seems pretty logical, right? Like, things can send messages in Teams. We're not the first ones, so we should be able to do that. We imagine that there'll be something like an API that you can call, just like, like email has, where you can send, here's my message, and here's the email address I want to send it to, and it arrives there safely. Surely Microsoft will have built something like that that lets you do that. Well, first, it's so over. Thank you. This just doesn't exist. So, Microsoft couldn't be asked. Sorry. It's just apparently too complicated. I will say, having said that, very recently we now offer Slack as a notification option at TeamGauge, and that really does exist like this. It was such a amazing turnaround, so different. when you can just, have an API that you send messages to. All right, but that's okay. We recover. So, everyone, we're so back. What was this image? Why is this one just gone? And I'm just going to refresh the presentation. Oh, that's why my internet's gone again. This is who I live my life by. Those of you who've worked with me know this very well. Anyway, so that's what we did before. All right. We're so back. Yes. All right. So to you, this might not look like much immediately. To anyone that's delved into Microsoft documentation, though, you may recognize kind of what it is. It's the Microsoft Graph API documentation. And you'll see here, this very little thing down here, there's a /chats endpoint. So theoretically, this documentation says that there's a URL where you can send a message to called chats, and it posts there, and it will create a chat for you. And you can say who should be in the chat, and you can say messages to send to the chat, and it will all be great. So we kind of read into this option, and we redesigned the process a little bit. There's just one extra step in here. TeamGauge doesn't talk to Teams anymore. TeamGauge talks to Microsoft Graph, which handles all the authentication and permissions from our customers. And Graph then works out, hey, I've been told I need to go create a chat in this customer with these people in it, and it'll go do that. So that's what we thought. That's what we went with, and unfortunately, it's so over. Now, again, this isn't self-explanatory to look at, but what this bit of the documentation is saying is that when you request to create a chat, the members that you put into the chat, they need to be a conversation member object, and they need to be an owner or guest in the tenant. And what this decodes as is they need to be users. They can't be an application. So you can't have TeamGauge as an application be in one of these chats. You as TeamGauge can make a chat with 2 other people. You can make a chat with Ben and Isaac in there. But you can't yourself be a member of that chat and send messages to it. So it's, you judge the usefulness of that. Definitely not useful for us. So yeah, again, back to the drawing board. And this one, come on, one more. We're so back. Here's the key, right? What you may have heard of in the title of this talk. It's a bot. It's a robot. Get it? Yeah, cool. So, looking through the documentation, we found this concept of bots, which Teams does support. And I'm sure you have dealt with bots before in, whether the dreary examples I can think of are your banking apps and your phone apps, where it's just like, hey, I need support with something, and it sends back saying, hi, I'm the Commonwealth Bank robot that's here to solve your problems. And naturally, your problem now takes 3 days instead of 10 seconds. But this is a concept supported by Microsoft in Teams. And we thought that this looked enticing. It obviously isn't what we wanted initially, because we don't want users to have to message us when it's time for them to get a notification, right? And it's pretty useless if you go to Facebook and ask them, have I got any friend requests recently? You kind of want that notification saying, hey, someone's requested to be your friend, pushed off the bat. It can't be a responsive thing. It needs to be proactive. And this is, another bit of the research that we eventually came across, which is a section on bots that say that they support proactive messaging. And you look at these examples: welcome messages, notifications, scheduled message. Those are the things that we wanted. So we just kept digging at this and kind of pulling the thread of this, of bots, and seeing where it went. And so we kind of designed a new architecture based around this. There's a bit of learning involved here, but we've got the TeamGauge web app, which is the thing sending notifications. We have in Teams, we have the bot client, which is the app that someone installs into their Teams. And we have a bot server, which is, this is Microsoft's Teams bot model. You need to have these kind of 2 parts of it. We have the bot client, which it sits in the user's own Teams account and is installed there and listens for stuff. And we have the bot server, which does any processing in the back end. So ideally, the flow of information is TeamGauge wants to send a notification to Bill Gates at Microsoft.com. It sends a message to the bot server. The bot server kind of scans through the clients that it knows about and says, hey, I do know someone called Bill Gates at Microsoft.com. I'll send it to their client. That's the plan. And then even better, like we started looking into, okay, the design kind of works, the architecture works, how does the code look for it? Especially with this bot server thing, we didn't really know anything about that. And yeah, great. Microsoft has their own libraries and packages that help you to do that. They're open source. You can go fix it yourself if something's broke. And beautifully, they offer a C# package. Very nice. At TeamGauge, we like that. If I forgot to mention, everything at TeamGauge is C#, except the front end, as it should be. Now, if you're a bit more chimp-brained, there is a JavaScript library as well. If you're a bit saucy, there's a Python library as well. I do know from researching, like just 2 nights ago when I was building a demo for tonight, the Python one does not support most of the functionality. And there is, in fact, a Java library as well that supports so little functionality that they don't even list it. So if you want to do anything, C# or JavaScript, obviously you know which one we prefer at the C#.NET user group, probably. I'd hope so. So yeah, we're looking really good. Like everything's kind of falling into place. And like spoiler, this is the option that we are going with and have gone with and will continue to go with. I've also done a bit of outside contracting recently, building this for a Teams similar system for someone else other than TeamGauge. And while I was doing that, it was like, you know, due diligence, like, is this still the best way? It is. And you know, it's all right, but unfortunately, it's actually very well and truly over. Even when you want to build this, it is just so painful to work with. Whether it's testing, whether it's the libraries that like Microsoft provides, whether it's their own support that they provide, the Azure setup just doesn't make sense, but you need Azure resources, but they keep changing what that Azure resource is. We've got like 3 versions of the same Azure resource at TeamGauge, and they're all called different things because they all changed what they were. Yeah, I'm not going to have to, I won't go through all of these, but you get the idea. It's not fun to use still, even though the system theoretically works. So let's talk about how it actually will work. We have the thing that wants to send notifications. Be it TeamGauge, if you've used Duolingo, you know that they send a lot of notifications, and I'm sure they're coming for your Teams account soon. Tonight, it literally can be anything. Tonight, it'll just be me with Postman just clicking a button, say send. We have the bot server, which processes, it kind of works both ways. It listens for messages saying, please go send a message to this person. And it also comes this way, listening for events from Teams, which I'll go into a bit later. We have the Azure bot, which, as I said, it's kind of it's just a middleman. It needs to exist for some reason that Microsoft decided. It's a resource in Azure with like one config variable, just the URL where this lives. And other than that, it doesn't really do anything. And then there's the Teams app, which your users install, or you know, you can get permissions to install it on behalf of them from an admin. All right, so since this can be anything, let's just simplify things and just now pull it down to these 3, make things simpler for the evening, and let's go in reverse order. Teams app first. So this is the thing that your users are going to be installing to their Teams. It's really interesting, I found it. The Teams apps, so having built web apps, mobile apps, watch apps, I don't know, like I'm sure some of you built TV apps and stuff. Yeah, there you go. You got something else or just watch apps and stuff?
I've got a watch app before.
Hell yeah.
Doors.
Nice. Did you have to use code for that?
Yes, I use Swift.
Yes, there you go. Turns out Teams apps are purely declarative. You don't write any code. They are just a JSON file, and it kind of says how the app should look, but you don't actually get to control how any of it behaves, which is really interesting. It's like, cool idea. Again, like, look at that slide before. Like, it sucks to implement, but it's a cool idea. So this is, for example, what a Teams app might look like. It's got some information about the developer and the name and description of the app and the icons that you want to add in. And it says, hey, I've got a bot in my app. Teams apps could be many things, by the way. They could be like, I don't know if many of you use Teams, but you could have like full page kind of, you know, you can bring a Trello board into Teams. You can share something in a chat based on, you know, again, I'm just going to use Atlassian as like an example. You can share a Confluence page into a chat. Whereas, yeah, so bots are one of those things that you can have in your Teams app. And here, yeah, you get the idea. You give your bot ID an ID, which comes from Azure, that Azure bot specifically. You give it scopes, so where do you want your bot to work? Does it work inside a team, just a personal like one-on-one chat, or a group chat? In here, it supports all 3. It's not notification only. People can message the bot, and here's like kind of the commands that they can give it. So these will show up in the Teams UI saying, hey, you can say get my projects, and the description will return a list of all the projects you're a part of. And again, you can scope these to different things. So when you're in a team or a group chat, the bot has a command called exterminate, which hard deletes everyone in the chat. And that's just one out of 3 things that you need for the app. The other 2 are dead simple. You need this JSON file, which they refer to as a manifest.json, and you need a small icon and a large icon. That's it. Small one is also like crazy restrictive. It's like 20 pixels by 20 pixels. Like you can't fit anything in it. It's like very useless. Anyway, so that is kind of what the Teams app is. If you want to dive into the schema, it's available online. As I said, bots are the interesting part tonight, but you can have, as I said, like a full page of your app inside Teams, and that just has configuration of like, okay, what's the URL I should put in Teams? And it just loads it in an iframe. So that is MS Teams. It's a JSON file with 2 icons, and we give it to Teams, and that's the app. Users install it. Working backwards again, the Azure bot. This is the middleman that sits within Azure. And as I said, that's kind of all it is. You create one of these Azure bots. That's the resource name. This one's called RoboCat. And the one thing that you're ever going to mess with is this messaging endpoint. Sorry, it's a bit blurry. But that is the endpoint where you've hosted your bot server. And all this does is listen for events from Teams, which may be things like, hey, a user's installed your app, a user's sent a command to your bot, and it forwards it. It uses this URL to forward it onto your bot server. So it's like, that's why the JSON idea is kind of cool, because you don't have to like change your app to change functionality. You just get the event of, hey, someone sent you this request, and you can just change your server whenever you want to handle that differently. All right, so I don't mean to brush over that one, but that's all it is. It's very quick. And finally, the bot server. This is where, as I said, all of our own logic is. And in this case, for a Teams app that's going to send messages to other people, it needs to do 2 things. Now, the first is it needs to do Teams event processing, which, as I said, it includes things like installations or people messaging the bot. So someone installs your Teams app, it sends an event to the Azure bot. The Azure bot has the URL for this server and sends that event there. And our server gets, hey, Bill Gates installed your app. Do what you want with that. And then the other way around is it needs to listen for requests from TeamGage, as it is in this case, or whatever app you have generating notifications, and send them the other way. So I receive a request to send a message saying, hello there, I don't know, to Bill Gates, and I go the other way. I say to the Azure bot, hey, send this message to Bill Gates if you know that person, and it goes and works out who that is. All right, so the part 1 of that is processing events that come in. And you can kind of think about this. This is actually, I should have pointed out one of the things on that like cons side of this approach that I had earlier was you need to process like an ephemeral piece of data. And that is kind of, it's this user's bot user ID, it's called. And it's this ID that's unique to the user and your bot. So like when someone installs your app, they get a unique ID that only comes in once on that installation event. And if you lose it, you can't contact them ever again. So that's really cool. Like the analogy works, it's like a phone number. Like if I met David on the street and I didn't ask his name, I didn't ask his phone number, didn't ask his email, and then we parted ways. It's like, I'm never contacting him again. Like same kind of thing, except like, we don't have to live like that. Like, Microsoft could just have an API that says, here's an email, give me the ID. But they chose not to. So yeah, think of it as writing down a phone number. That's me with the cute eyes. That's the one I always get when I'm out. So yeah, our bot needs to listen out for events. The team sends it saying, hey, a user's installed your bot, and we need to write down that ID so that we can send them a message again later. Now the other, this is the logic of that. So this is our bot server. We receive an event from Teams. Is it an installation? Yes. Then we just record the user, the details. Sorry, my bad. This is a more generic case. This is your bot could theoretically be installed anywhere, in a one-on-one chat, in a group chat, in a team. So if it's an installation, that means that the bot is being added to something existing. That means it's being added to a team, which may have one person in it, may have 20 people in it. So if the bot is being installed, we have permission to record the details of everyone in that chat because it kind of all comes through as one message. However, if it wasn't the bot being installed, it was instead someone being added to the conversation where the bot already is, then we only need to record the details of that one person who was added. And then otherwise, we don't care about it in this case. We just kind of throw the event away. It might be someone uninstalled the bot. It might be someone sent an emoji to the bot. Unless we want to have something that replies, then we don't need to do anything. Now, the other way is the message sending bit. So this is relatively straightforward. So if TeamGage sends our bot server a message saying, hey, send this message to Matt at teamgage.com, we create an activity that's just Teams' libraries, kind of like generic. It could be a text message. It could be a message with an attachment. It could be an image. It could be anything that you can send via Teams. And then we ask, do we actually know the user? If we don't, because we didn't log that ID earlier, then we just can't do anything. So we kind of keep moving on. Otherwise, yeah, we found a user matching that email address and we know that ID. Then we ask, have we messaged them before? Is this the first time we're messaging them? And that's implemented by like, do they have a conversation ID? So if they don't, then we need to create that conversation. Otherwise, we just reuse the existing conversation ID. And that just keeps things all in the same thread. Otherwise, you get like 20 chats from the same bot appear in your Teams. And then we've got the conversation ID, we've got the message, we've got the user. We have everything we need to call Microsoft and say, please send the message. Bada bing, bada boom. It all goes through. So you can kind of see, like, these are the 4 bits all together. So it will go both ways. So someone installs the Teams app, it lets our Azure bot know. The Azure bot forwards that to our bot server, where we write down their phone number and then kind of just sit there waiting for something to happen. The other way, TeamGage messages our bot server saying, send a message to Matt at teamgage.com. It goes, yes, I know about that person. I have a conversation ID with them. I send a message to the Azure Bot API, and it goes and pushes a message to their inbox. Done. So you can kind of see how like the 4 nations here kind of live in harmony a bit. Yeah, and that's really the whole system. So, you know, without further ado, let's do some code demo. Damn, my gags didn't work. I was going to Alt-Tab to like one of these, but it's on the wrong window. I'll still say the joke anyway. All right, so bada bing, bada boom. We're going to do some code. Who here uses Writer? You are correct.
Yes.
If you are still using Visual Studio, I'm sorry, we cannot be friends. It's just a tax bracket thing. Sorry. Writer is superior though, all jokes aside. Now, we are going to implement all of the bits of that. So first up, we will kind of go in reverse order. We're going to build the Teams app first, and that I've got in here. So these are those 3 things that I said we needed. We needed two icons and a JSON file to declare what the app looks like. Now you can see this is RoboCat Enterprises making a bot called the RoboCat, a virtual cat assistant that sends you messages, and it's got a single bot that can be installed in the personal scope, so one-on-one, and is notification only, so people can't message the bot back. So this is our very basic, just send messages to someone's Teams inbox kind of app. Now there is one field we need to fill in here, bot ID. You can see that is blank right now. And so we're going to go kind of skip ahead 1 step and go make that Azure bot registration. So where's the window I had open? Oh, I closed my windows when I ran out of internet earlier. Let's go again. Nope. Welcome to the Azure portal. I don't have a better idea than just using Shifto's account, so Matt El Diablo it is. And what we're going to do is we are going to search for the term Azure Bot up here, and it'll think about it, because Microsoft does like to take its time with these things, and click it. Did I click it, or did I click near it? No, it's there. OK. We are going to call it RoboCat. Shifto is paying for it. We're going to put it in the add nug demo group. We want these are just, you can leave all the defaults and things are simpler. You can have better data governance stuff if your application needs it. You can keep your data specifically in one location. Standard pricing tier is free. I don't know why there is different pricing tiers when they're all free. And again, it's kind of just an easiest thing to leave it as a multi-tenant application. It can be installed to pretty much anyone that wants your app. You can, if you have like strict data rules and want to limit it to a single tenant, you can, but again, it just kind of makes things difficult. So again, yeah, we have very little interaction with this resource. We set it to all its defaults and we create it and it will go do stuff. Nice. All right, while that's going, let's start on the bot code a bit. Where's my mouse going? Was it there? No, here. Oh, I should have done this on the same desktop. So, shout out to .NET. This is like the first very new .NET project I've created in a while. How good are minimal APIs? Like the fact that this is all you need to like create a app. Like you can say 25 lines with some setup, and it's just like, oh, when you go to this URL /API/events, do this bit of code. When you go to this URL, do this bit of code. So good. Sorry, I'm just like really excited about this. Also, does anyone else use records for like their API models? Yeah. I think it's the best. Yeah, hell yeah, I knew you would. All right, so these are our, you know how I said it has two processes. It listens to events from teams and needs to process installations, and it also takes events the other way. So requests to send notifications, say from TeamGauge, and then we go send the notification. So let's look at the events processing side first. So I've set up this URL, /API/events. And what we're going to do is we're going to call this adapter, which as you can see here is a bot framework HTTP adapter. That is one good thing I like about the library, is they have kept it very like, I don't know how you say it, implementation agnostic maybe. So if you want it as a HTTP API, you can do that. If you want it as a queue-based bot, where you have all your messages coming through, you can do that. If you want to pass it through however you want using some weird console app protocol, you can do that too. So here where it's saying, no, use a HTTP adapter, and then actually get our bot, which is called Robocat. And if we look at the registrations up here, we have registered our Robocat as the bot. And it has one main message. So we implement this base class, which comes from Microsoft, and all it does is give us a whole bunch of stuff to override. And all we're going to do is override this one method called onMembersAddedAsync. And this is called for, this is what I would say, like the bot itself can be considered a member. So this includes the bot having been installed. So when either the bot is installed or a user is added to a chat where the bot is installed, this will be called on your code. Now, as I said, we want to do one of two things depending on who was added. If it was the bot that was installed, that is this case here. If any of the members who were added you got to use contains because Microsoft puts some garbage in front of the ID when it comes in. But if any of them are basically equal to the app registration ID, that's what we're saying here, we have the app being installed. And so we're going to process that installation by getting all members in the team or channel or chat, whatever it is, and recording the accounts. Getting all members from team sucks because you got to use this, this one. You got to use this team's info object, which I don't like because it's just a static class that's kind of magic and they don't explain it and they don't have documentation. But it also like does API calls, but it's also static, so you can't mock it. So yeah, in TeamGauge, for example, we've like made our own wrapper around it just to have stuff that you can mock for tests. And then, yeah, so we get all the members who are in this team, and then we record their accounts. All that is, I've blocked this out, sorry, is we just check in the database, is there any users who match the tenant and match the email? If not, then we add them. Now, I'll just quickly go through all the fields that a Teams user might need, because also, another elite pattern some of you, I hope, will take home from today and be like, God, I love Matt, he's amazing at this stuff. Private constructors for Entity Framework. Entity Framework does sometimes need parameterless constructors, and by doing this, you still make the out-facing API very, very nice and so people can't do illegal things in your code. So these are all the things that we need to record about a user, and there's quite a few of them. We have the ID, that's just our own database. Don't really care about that. Could have theoretically used the email or the bot user ID. We have a tenant ID, so which customer do they belong to? So if I install my app into TeamGauge and, I don't know, what's another company? Tap2 and DigitalOcean and all of these things, they all have a different tenant ID, and so we need to, maybe a user exists in all three of them, we need to keep that tenant ID just in case. We then have the email of the user, so matt@teamgauge.com. We get given this random thing called a service URL, which Microsoft says you have to use. You don't strictly have to use it, but it's better if you do, but they don't explain why that's better if you do. And also it used to be part of their security model where you had to trust the service URLs, but they didn't have a list of the good ones, so you just had to trust any service URL. Now, this is, it's just mainly a region-based like Teams endpoint. It's like they're in the format teams.microsoft.com/API/America or /ASEAN or / kind of things. And yeah, you just kind of got to use it for the best performance, I guess. Not sure why. Bot user ID, that's the thing that I said we need to capture, otherwise that's their phone number. If we don't have that, we're screwed, we can't do anything. And this is the conversation ID, which we create on the first time that we want to actually message them, and we store for further use later. Now we just have, you know, a shorthand helper for like, does the conversation exist? Yes or no. So that all should have gone not read anymore. Great. Now the second option is the bot wasn't installed, just someone else was added to the account. And same deal here, we need to get their full Teams channel account. That's another gotcha. This method gives you channel accounts, not Teams channel accounts. So you don't get a user's bot user ID or their email until you use that static random API object to get their full Teams channel account. It's very cool. Big fan of that. All right, so that's the bot. That's all the code that's there. We say, if the bot was installed, get everyone in the team, add them to the database. If a user was added to an existing conversation, just get their details, add them to the database. Job done. Now, the other way around. So that's us listening to Teams events and doing things with them. The other way around is, okay, we've been told that we need to send a message, a text message to a user. We have this request object. It is an email and a message. And it says, within this tenant, send an email to the user with this, send a text message to the user with this email. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to create the activity. It's going to be a text activity. That's all. This is all just part of Microsoft's library. And then we're going to use our conversation service, which I've implemented here, to send the message to the user. So first things first, we try and find the user in our database. Do we have something that matches their email and their tenant ID? If we don't, then can't do anything. They don't have the bot installed. All right, however, if we keep going, we find that they do exist. Great. We know about the person, but do they have a conversation? If they don't yet, then we need to create the conversation with them. And we're going to go down. Why isn't auto scroll working today? We're going to do that. And this uses Microsoft Graph. So we need to create this thing called a connector client, which is Microsoft's special way of saying you can log in and make API requests with this. And we need to make parameters. So what's the bot that's going to be in this chat? What's the members that are going to be in the chat? There's just going to be one. It's going to be the user with that bot user ID, the phone number thing that I was saying about. And it belongs to the tenant that we've got. Once that's done, we send it off to Graph to create the conversation. We get the ID back and save it in our database for future use. So by here, we now know that we have a user and that they've got a conversation ID. So then we, again, you could do this more efficiently, but we spin up another API kind of accessor here, and we do this conversations.send to conversation async method, which takes the conversation ID, the thing that you want to send, and sends it to them. That's the system. That's all the code. And so what we're going to do now is try and actually make it run. And I have done a cardinal sin of like live demo where I'm spinning up a new resource as we speak. Like this is very bad.
Relevant, the save user ID in the Wrapup hacks on the API was still commented out.
Fair call. Cool.
Scroll up line 30 something. 43.
Good call. Yeah, fair enough. We probably do want it to save to the database. All right, so now we have our Azure bot. This is the guy I was telling you about. Now, new thing I learned when I was building this demo, you need to go to channels and you need to turn it on for Teams, otherwise you won't get an error, it just won't work. And yeah, people can attest to, I was very stressed the other night trying to get it working. And it just was, it's actually because of two things. This was one of them, and you think you've solved the problem, and then you haven't. So I'm saying, yes, I want my bot to work on Teams and Teams Commercial rather than Team Government. Could send Peter Malinauskas a message right now. We won't do that. I'm sure he's enjoying his night at home. Okay, so that bit's done. The bot's set up. We go to configuration. We grab this Microsoft App ID, which we will paste in to our manifest JSON as the bot ID. And also, you need something related. Look, I won't actually go into the complexities of why it might be different, but usually you just fill them in with both of the same thing. And then finally, the other gotcha is in your running application, you need parameters called Microsoft App ID and Microsoft App Password. And if they're not named exactly that, it also won't work without telling you why, which is again, was great. So that's Microsoft App ID. And also, how good is this, right? So I've created the bot. I need my app password that goes with this. It gives me a link to go manage the password. And they're so considerate that they made me a password that I can never see. So we have to go create a new one. Just call it demo, and it can stay as that. I think the longest you can set it for is like 2 years or something before it expires. And then we let it make a new secret.
I wonder if he used the CLI.
Oh yeah, it probably does that. And we get our one-time secret. When we refresh the page, it'll be gone. But for now, in it goes. And that's everything. Great. So let us put this in Teams format. Open in. Come on. Explorer. So these are our three things: the small icon, large icon, and the manifest JSON. And to make it into a format that Teams understands, you have to do this very complex process of putting it in a zip file. And that is your Teams app ready to go. So let's now go to Teams. This one. Oh, I came up on the wrong screen. Who did that? All right, so this is our Teams. Sorry, TeamGauge, I'm using your development teams. Look, Luke said something. Hey. All right, and actually, sorry, I want my app running so that it gets the installation event. Otherwise, we miss it and we lose all chances again. So we start this up. While that's starting up, I'm also going to show you the database to prove that there's no users inside. This is very magician of me. New query. Select start from, from Teams users with a space. So I have a table called Teams users. It has nothing in there. Great. Now, we are locked and loaded. Well, yeah, damn right. Who doesn't know what ngrok is? Fair call. So ngrok, for this, as I said, you need to give Azure a URL to reach your app at. And you can't give Azure localhost. That doesn't mean anything to it, right? Because that's my machine. I need to make a URL that's addressable from the internet, but points to my machine. And that's what ngrok is. It's what's the name? Tunneling service, maybe? Hell yeah, love it. Love your work. And that's what we're doing here. So we're going to say, ngrok, give me a HTTP protocol to, or quicker way is just this address. And you need to use this one argument, otherwise it doesn't work, again, for like very silent and unbeknownst reasons. Host header equals localhost. Otherwise it just fails some pre-check. Anyway, so now I've got this URL, valid HTTPS certificate, which I can plug into any browser, I can send to anyone, and it should take me to the page that says locked and loaded. Yeah, so that's running on my machine, but addressable from the internet now. And so we go back to our RoboCat. We say, hey, when you receive events from Teams, go to here and put it at the /API/events endpoint, which I think is what I made it do. Program /API/events. Cool, we're good. Okay, here's the stressful part of the live demo. Will it work? We have this running. We have Teams somewhere. Problem one, find Teams. There it is. Cool, and we're going to add a new app to our Teams. We are going to manage our apps. There's an old version of RoboCat there, but we're going to upload a new one, which is from Teams app and our demo. As you can see, it's read in like all that information from the JSON file saying like the name's RoboCat is from RoboCat Enterprises. Yep, that's it. Cool. So we send that there, and then we stressfully watch ngrok because it gives you a log of all the messages being sent to it. So we should see in here a request to the events, and I want it to go 200, please. Oh no, wait, oh yeah, sorry, we're good. 200, yes. All right, everything, yeah. Here comes the money. Now, if we go back to our database and we execute the query again, we have a user here. It's me. How good. Now, if I open Teams again, where am I? I'm now talking to RoboCat. I can't send messages to this bot. It can only send messages to me. And I am going to just do something, see what happens. Does it work? There we go. So all I did here was I have Postman open, and I said, send a post message to localhost at the API/messages endpoint I declared. This is the tenant ID of that Teams customer that I installed the app in, and I want a text message. Go to this user's email and send that message. And yeah, you can do it a bunch of times, just like a cat. Oh, is the rate limiting already coming in? It's got like pretty generous rate limits of like, one message per user per like 5 seconds or something. There's usually not much more reason to send more often than that. But yeah. So that's it. We've got a working Teams system that sends messages. How good. We are so back. Alrighty. Let us just go back to the slides. So, oh man, I don't have the slides on the screen. That's the one. No, go back. I don't want that yet. Cool. All right. So we've got our app, and to submit it to the App Store is easy. Like our server's up and running. That's our own piece of infrastructure. We control that. We say that it's ready to go. We just give that zip file to Microsoft, and they hand it to their validation team, check that everything's all good. And that's really it. We are kind of done. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to go visit the Teams validation team for a sec. I'll be back in a couple of minutes. Yeah. Crazy. Guys, they said because we're called TeamGage, we can't be on the Teams store because there's team in the name. They said that when users click on a link, that Microsoft controls the link that it needs to take them to a new window, but we don't control that link. It said app source description is having less words. They wanted us to implement links on mobile, but their app doesn't support links on mobile. I don't know what to do, guys, anymore. I think we should probably just call it there. And that's where I call the presentation. That's it. So yeah, special shout out to TeamGage fam, the wider TeamGage fam, because as I said, we made this a few years ago. So we have some people sitting in the audience, Ben, Isaac, who have worked on this app before becoming traders and leaving to other companies, just quietly. And also, yeah, just to anyone else who's online that's watching from TeamGage and helped with the app, to Ben for his recording, for all of you for coming along tonight and watching. Like, it's great to talk to. I don't want to say it, but it's great to talk to other nerds. I really like talking about this stuff, and like anyone else who finds it interesting is like, yeah, let's go. Love this. Yeah, that's it. Thank you again. What would you like me to do?
Any questions?
Oh, yeah, that one. Any questions? Yeah?
Does the user keep the same bot ID if they uninstall and reinstall the app?
Yeah, they do. It's weird. It's like, yeah, this piece of information that you can only get the once, but somehow it just stays the same. So they do know it, and they could be able to put it in an API.
But if you miss it, there is literally no way to regain it.
There's, in this case, no. If a user goes and messages your bot themselves, you get another copy of it. So you can, with a bot that lets you message it, you can say to the user, hey, we missed your thing. Even if it was like not intentional, you can have transient database errors and stuff. You can go to that user and say, message my bot again, and capture it then. But that's the best you can do. It's really insane. Yeah.
So say your service is running on like a Kubernetes cluster, and container gets recycled. There's like a couple of milliseconds of downtime.
Yeah.
Misses
Yep.
that token. How do they expect you to
They like
notify the user that you have to message the bot?
genuinely. Yeah. Genuinely, yeah, like don't know. So we not to brag or anything, we just had our biggest run of these notifications ever yesterday. We had a customer and we sent 13,500 Teams notifications in the space of a couple of hours, just because there's that many users. And yeah, we dealt with their IT department saying, hey, install this app to everyone, because they're admins, they can install it via policy to save users having to go to the store and install it themselves, right? And as part of that, we kind of had to expect that there'd be a drop rate, and I think we lost about like 5 or 6 users in that process. Out of like 13,500, obviously not too bad, but it's like, yeah, we saw the like errors come up and we're like, well, that sucks. Oh well. Like they can reinstall the app if they want, but yeah, that's it. Yeah. Did you have another?
Slack notifications.
Oh man, don't get me started with Slack. That was so easy compared to this. I would never be able to do. I'd give a presentation on that, but it'd be done in 2 minutes. Yeah, keep going.
Notifications can be used for like business critical things where they have to get the notification.
Yes.
Microsoft indicated that they're going to fix this.
No. Like, yeah. Simple answer, no. Like, yeah, there's issues like raised against their like GitHub like repositories for these packages and stuff, and they just sit there. That's about it. Also, yeah, in that big run yesterday, we had just timeouts on their end, like in that like create conversation endpoint from Graph. And so again, like it's kind of like out of the 13,000, we lost about 20 because we just requested go create a conversation for this user, and Graph timed out. And we're like, well, you're Microsoft, like, come on, just be better. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Do you get much information about a user when they interact with the bot for the first time? Or like sending people messages?
You do get like their user profile in whatever like that dictates. If you look at like the Azure or Microsoft Graph guides, there's like a user profile object, which includes like given name, surname, preferred name, email, I think like a URL to their icon, image, very basic stuff like that. But you do get it, and it's, and if I show you again, because there is it's like not the emphasis of this screen, but there is, maybe it's in the About tab. Maybe we can skip this process. No. Oh, what am I doing? What did I want to do with this? Oh, I know. Which one was it? To install it again, we have to kind of uninstall it. Let's just hope that was the one. Manage your apps. Upload. Yeah, there you go. Permissions. This will have permission to receive messages and data that I provide to it, send me messages, and access my profile information such as name, email address, company, and preferred language. There you go. So there's a few things we get about you. That's really it, though. There's not too much. Yeah.
So the myriad of outsourced Microsoft affiliates that cause the problems like this are all sort of shit at the moment. How did you end up successfully getting around all of that and back into an actual human Microsoft employee that could actually help you?
So thankfully, it's part of, like being in TeamGauge specifically. We are like at the time we were part of this thing called the Microsoft Partner Program, a scale up, I think it was. So yeah, we had some contacts at Microsoft who were assigned to help us with, like their job description is help TeamGauge with whatever they need to get bigger.
Were they in Australia or were they in Britain?
Yes, yeah, Australia.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, we had look, I'm trying to remember. Do you remember, like, Ben, did we have many contacts around the world? Was it just stayed in Australia, really?
Because what we're finding now is that the partner program entire channel is now outsourced.
Right, okay.
So I've got a couple of contacts left, but
Yeah, that was the thing. It was like, our contacts were very helpful. They were good. I was, like going through for those screenshots of like the validation errors that we got given. I was going through old emails again. And there was like one very helpful Australia-based engineer that just we happened to get in contact with through like our other two contacts, and super useful for that. But yeah, again, like the validation team, somewhere else in the world, it wasn't very helpful at all. Not really even affiliated with Microsoft. They were just contracted out to the work, so it was very difficult dealing with them. Yeah, I feel yours, man. If you want to go get a beer after, we'll cry. Cool. No more questions? Oh yeah.
Please. Firstly, the very nice presentation. I love your sarcasm as well.
Thanks, man.
A quick question, like how are you handling the concurrency as well? Because since it's a real-time application, you might face a situation where you have two exact messages at the exact same time. So how are you handling the concurrency as well? Like, of course, it's a multi-threading application.
Yeah, like the answer is we're not intentionally handling it. It's just kind of happening. As in, like it's a HTTP API, like it's a .NET API project. You can send two of the requests at the same time. If the user's already there, it's thread safe and it can just read and send two messages to Graph. And I'd hope Graph can process two messages at the same time. Yeah. And so yeah, like it's again, we're not intentionally handling it. It's just working. Maybe we get to a point, although 13.5 does seem like a good test of like, real users to send it. We probably don't need to think about it. It's just genuinely like, we'll worry about it when we get there.
Thank you.
That's okay. We all good? Love it.